Okay, folks, so this is the final session, I believe. We're going to talk a little bit about dealing with short gamma, short put position, and how they're going to react to that. It's very, very different from a positive gamma position. We'll talk about Vanna and Charm, and that'll be it. And hopefully that completes the full scope of how this position works. Let's get into it. So let's take the other side. We're saying short gamma now. Right? So the market maker is short 100 puts. Let's say we're close to the put strike. And at 580, let's say, those are, let's say, a 25 delta. So market maker who's short 100 puts, remember, you need to sell stock against short puts. When you're long calls, you need to sell stock against long calls. When you're short puts, you need to sell stock against short puts, because as the market goes through that short strike, you're in trouble if you're not short stock, right? So the hedge for long calls is short stock. The hedge for short calls is long stock. The hedge for short puts is short stock. The hedge for long puts is long stock. And so these are a 25 delta. What happens at 530? Well, these darn things are a 50 delta. So up here, market maker is short 2,500 shares to go delta neutral. What happens at 530? He's underhedged. He's got to be short 5,000 shares to hedge this position, because we're starting to fly through that strike. And remember how delta accelerates through the strike. That's your gamma, acceleration of delta movement. We're flying through the strike. We're starting to get longer and longer deltas, which is what's happening in the last few days. The market's gone from 5,800 to 5,570, and those puts are exploding in value. There's a massive position at 5,565. So market makers have been panicking, and that's part of probably what pushed things down on Friday. There was definitely some selling, there were some inflation numbers, right? Organic movement is gonna play with this whole situation too, and it'll often override any gamma that we're talking about. Remember, this is one piece of the market. This isn't everything, not by any means. Not by any stretch of the imagination is this necessarily everything that's going on in the market. But this is gonna accelerate things, right? Along with all these levered ETFs and all this stuff going synthetic gamma out there and other products that are, having to sell into sell-offs. This is where the market makers short 2,500 shares, and that's not enough. Need to sell another 2,500. So I want you to notice one big difference between long gamma. Long gamma, you can be reactionary to movement and feed the ducks. There's an old saying on the floor, which was, when ducks quack, feed them. Great. So the market, your long gamma, the market pops up, it goes for a big run. I can sell deltas. That's much more fun. What happens when you're short gamma? You are selling into panic and buying into strength, right? That's not as much fun. You're having to chase the market. This is chasing. This is reactive. That is more fun. Now, is there a cost to being reactive? Well, yeah, long gamma comes with short theta, right? There's a daily theta bill that you have to deal with. There's potentially vega risk, right? If implied volatility drops, you're long a bunch of vega. So this is not saying this is easy, but when you can pick up that really cheap implied volatility, and then the market starts getting very volatile, you're in the driver's seat. You're benefiting from all this stuff. You're benefiting from movement. You're gamma trading. You're gamma scalping. You're benefiting from vega popping, which is going to make your theta bill higher. But it's only a reaction to the vega win that you've had. So short gamma, you're chasing things. So what's happening here? If the market goes flying through here, think of what's happening last week going through 55.65 as this. This is what's happening. We've gone from here when the market had a nice rally, to where this wasn't a threat at all. Now we're moving down towards this 555, 65 strike in reality in the S&P, not in our situation here. We've created a different scenario, but think of this as being very much what we're going to have to deal with tomorrow on Monday morning. The futures are down. We're going to fly through the strike. Market makers are going to have to sell into weakness. This could get kind of ugly to the downside. And this is an accelerant. This is an accelerant. This is like trying to walk through mud, right? So positive gamma scenarios are more stable. They're more supportive. They also create a little resistance to the upside, right? Because you've got stock for sale up here. Well, you've got stock to buy down here. So it creates stability. And generally, people like stability. They want stocks to rally, but they like stability. This is not stability. This is an accelerant. This doesn't cause a problem on its own, but once you start getting closer to that strike, it acts as an accelerant as everybody starts playing leapfrog over one another to sell stock and get the heck out of Dodge, right? And so that's what we've got going on here. It's a very, very big problem. So positive gamma environments versus negative gamma environments are really kind of how we like to sort of think of things. Some are going to be slightly positive, some are going to be slightly negative. But with a position like this is a very large position from that JPM collar. We're moving way away from here. The delta on this 581 that we have here is relatively insignificant once we get down to here. There's not much left in it, especially with only a few weeks left, let's say. The few weeks left, this has almost no delta. So you're not short any stock against this anymore. So you can't really buy any stock back that can help to alleviate some of this pain here, right? Sometimes when the position starts out, the gamma isn't problematic, because what happens is with longer term positions, the gamma kind of smooths out. You don't have these peaks and valleys. So it's not creating. So if we go back to, let's go back to March 31st. Look at how smooth that is. And if I made this like a 7-month position, I mean, it would be just like this. There's gamma, but it's not very fast, right? It's not the gamma that you get as you get closer to expiry is that whiplash type gamma. And that's why the new position, it's going to fill the market maker's boots with some new positions, right? And we're going to get that tomorrow. It's going to give them a bunch of vega. That's going to maybe put a little bit of a lid on volatility going up, but I would say probably not much, because the market looks a bit ugly. But it's going to keep a little lid because the market's going to know that there's this big position coming in. It's going to create some positive vega that's going to be sold into the market. But you're also going to have positive delta from this giant collar, where people are going to have to sort of sell into this thing. I think it tends to strike around 230. So everyone's going to be, probably selling ahead, front running the trade. And then maybe we even bounce after that. But there's going to be some shenanigans tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be a very interesting day because of this structure, because of what's going on in markets, because of this Liberation Day on April 2nd. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and it's not the greatest time to be in a really massive short gamma position. Now, we might as well finish it off today. I'm not going to do a new video, but let's talk about charm. Well, we're kind of talking about charm right here, right? So we've talked about how the passage of time can reduce out of the money deltas and can increase in the money deltas. But what I wanted to say rather is, let's talk about Vanna. What happens with Vanna? Vanna is the effect on delta from movement in implied volatility. And we haven't really talked about that. We've talked about how as time goes on, our delta will change, and market makers have to be reactive to that. Remember, our delta drops on out of the monies. That means that's going to create a bit of a bid. It's your little bit of a charm effect. And you'll see, because 0DTE are such big business these days, if you're in any discords or chat rooms where they're talking about, lots of day trading S&P and zero DTE, they'll be talking about charm a lot, because from the morning to the afternoon, there's going to be some charm happening, right? With a 3-month position, charm isn't a big deal until you get closer to expiry. At least, on the other half of the expiry. But in trading zero DTE, charm is going to be happening throughout the day. So charm on a zero DTE is like the collar expiring every day. Every day there's a massive amount of option positions that are expiring. So charm has something to do with it. And that's why people use things like option depth, I think it's called, and spot gamma and things like that, to monitor that. Right? There are these heat maps, and you can figure out where's the charm, where's the gamma. They literally have different settings for, okay, here's your charm heat map, where it is, where it's happening, and how that affects your positions. But let's say volatility drops. Well, if volatility drops, what's going to happen is an out of the money call is going to lose its delta. Right? So if volatility drops, that's essentially the market saying, we don't think there's going to be as much movement. So think about it this way. The market's saying there's not going to be as much movement. Therefore, it doesn't believe we have as good a chance of an out of the money call strike being breached. Therefore, the delta is dropping on that call. So a drop in implied volatility is going to reduce deltas on out of the money calls, and on in the money calls, it's going to increase deltas. So let's say I'm a market maker, I'm long these calls, and I'm short stock. A Vanna move from implied volatility is going to say that as this delta comes down, now I'm short too much stock. I've got to buy. So the Vanna effect here is that deltas are dropping from a drop in implied volatility, and that creates a bid. So just like charm, it creates a bid when there's positive gamma here. If I'm on the other side and I'm long in the money calls, let's say they're way in the money, let's say I'm short, let's say these are a 70 delta. What happens if implied volatility drops? Well, those are going to become an 80 delta. Now I have to sell more stock. Right? The market's saying probably less of a chance that we're going to go back through the strike. And as a market maker, as a dealer, I need to sell more stock. So a drop in implied volatility means I sell more stock. Now, what if implied volatility rises? That's Vanna as well. It's going to do the opposite. So if I'm short stock against these calls and implied volatility rises, this delta is going to rise as well. Right? So now I have to sell stock. So a sudden increase in implied volatility is going to make the dealer have to sell some stock against money calls. Okay? So different effects. And then if we're looking at a short position, it's going to be a little bit of a sort of conundrum as well, right? So let's say I'm short stock against these puts here, these out of the money puts. If the volatility drops, I'm going to have to buy back stock, right? I'm short. This is what happened a couple of weeks ago. The implied volatility dropped so much in the market that anybody who was short, dealers who were short stock against out of the money puts, needed to buy stock back. So suddenly there was a bid in the market just from the VIX coming down, from implied volatility dropping. People started to have to buy stock just by virtue of that. Had nothing to do with people wanting to buy stock in the market because they thought stocks were undervalued. This is purely mechanical, right? So when you start having massive influences from derivatives in markets, you have things going on that have nothing to do with fundamentals, right? I think we know there have always been things that, are not connected to the market, that make markets move around, that have no connection to fundamentals. But these are more important than ever. So again, charm, the passage of time, is going to change deltas and have you buy more or sell more stock. Vanna is an implied volatility change up or down that is also going to affect deltas and also going to affect the maintenance. Remember, we talked about this effect that the trade has the day of the structure. There's going to be a trade effect. Whole bunch of vega coming into the market, a whole bunch of gamma, a whole bunch of long delta. So, market makers have to sell out some market exposure. But the maintenance of these positions is an ongoing thing. So let's finish off with just a quick little review. Charm, passage of time affecting deltas. Out of the money calls and puts lose delta, right? They're out of the money. The market's saying, by virtue of passage of time, the market's saying, well, we have less time to get to that strike. The delta is going to drop. Those become very soft deltas, right? That's why I don't like being short stock against soft deltas, because they're really prone to collapse and, suddenly a big upward move in the market where implied volatility is going to get crushed even more. I'm going to have a Vanna. Vanna's going to kill me. Charm's killing me. Vanna's going to probably kill me on the way up, because now I'm short stock against crappy little calls, and now they're crushing vol even more to the upside, smashing that upside call skew, and I'm short stock against freaking calls that aren't even going up anymore. That is a very, very common problem. If you don't understand what you're doing as a market maker, you can get hurt very, very quickly. You're short stock against calls that won't go up because they keep getting hammered from implied volatility dropping, and maybe you haven't been paying attention to your charm, you're getting really, really hurt. So that's another reason why when calls get to be like 50, 60 cents, maybe even $1, you're just not short much stock. It might tell me to be short 2,000 shares against those calls. I'll be short 500 shares or no shares at all. So that's where you really have to kind of bring your intuition into the art and science of market making. So out of the money, calls and puts are going to lose delta. In the money, puts and calls are going to gain delta. And delta change from change in implied vol. So out of the money, calls and puts lose delta on a drop in IV. In the money, calls and puts gain delta on a drop in IV. So that's it, folks. Hopefully that gives you, boy, we jammed it all in there into one video. We've got gamma, we've got Vanna, we've got charm. Hopefully some good insight into dealing with soft deltas. Be very, very careful with soft deltas. That's why being long out of the money calls with not much time left is very difficult. You ever had a move in a stock where you're like, man, I thought I was going to make a bunch of money on those out of the money calls. A couple things happened. They got crushed. The upside call skew probably got crushed. Maybe it didn't happen right away, so there was a bit of almost like a charm effect. They lost deltas. They lost value. The theta, right? That's a hard trade if you don't give yourself enough time. That's why I often tell people, look, if you got to be long options, and I'm certainly all for that at times, appropriately to everyone's risk tolerance, and definitely check with your advisor to see what you should be doing or shouldn't be doing. But for me, that's a tough trade. I give myself enough time typically. A long option position, I really want to have kind of 4, 5, 6 months on my side in order for me to not get hurt by those things I just mentioned, and to give myself enough time. You can't control much in markets. I can't control what the market's going to do. One of the only things I can control is how much time I give myself to be right. It's literally one of the only things you can control. You're going to pay more for that option, but at least you're going to give yourself time to be right. And that's good for your peace of mind. It allows you to have an idea and let it come to fruition and not get shaken out. You have calls that have like a week left in their life. You can get shaken out quickly because you can just see the value disappearing from those things every day that you're wrong. So hopefully that was a good video for you guys. And if I think of anything else, I'll add another video to the series. But so far, that's pretty good. So let's see what happens this week, and we'll see you in the next video. Okay, folks, so we'll leave today at this, and be sure to download the cash flow blueprint, the Crush the Premium book, and please like and subscribe. I'd really, really appreciate it. I'm trying to build my channel. I want to keep bringing you guys great stuff. And when I see more subscribers, I get excited, and I just want to create more great content. So great benefit to you guys, of course, because you're going to learn a few things, and great benefit to me because I get excited about getting new subscribers. So it's a win-win situation. So please like and subscribe, tell a friend about us, and we'll see you in the next video.